guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to do an 8x10 hibiscus painting. This is a watercolor. This is the first time I'm dealing with watercolors. Blending is something that is a little bit challenging for me. And if it's challenging for you, you can tag along and we'll learn together. This video is going to be a time lapse, so I'm not going to be really explaining much. So that's why I'm going to do this intro with you now and give you a little heads up of what paints I'm using, the brushes I'm using, and possibly the techniques I'm using. So again, this is 8x10 canvas watercolor painting. I'll first get started with the paints that I used. So I used ultramarine blue and a sap green for the background. Now I kind of went a little bit overboard. I started thinking like acrylic paint, and that's where you can see that. This is my first time again with watercolors, so I'm learning. So sap green and ultramarine blue. I did a nice blend to it, but I wanted to add more. So I added a little bit more sap green just to darken it up a little bit, and then I just let it sit. Then I started going into my flower, and I used a brilliant red with a little bit of zinc titanium white. The brilliant red, as you can see, I went a little bit on the darker spot. I kind of over texturized it on purpose because I wanted to make it look like it's popping out of the picture. So when I went to blend it in, I went a little bit, mixed it with a little bit of zinc titanium white, and then add a little bit more white to it and just blended it in. I'll explain which brushes I used. For that part, I used, what did I use? I used a number 4, looks like round tip brush, just to do that. And then when I got done with that, I went back to my background, and I used a fan brush with no water this time, and I used a little bit of yellow orchid, just to give it that look of leaves in a distance or grass or whatever you want to imagine it's back there. So after that, I went back into my flower and I started doing the veins to the flower. Used just the brilliant red, and just maybe I used, for that part, I used the number 3 round tip brush. So I made some that were thicker and some that were smaller, and just used that dark brilliant red for that part. And then I went into the middle part of the flower and I used an orchard yellow, and I also used, I believe I used the same brush, and I just did the tapping method because inside of the flower it's usually a little bit of hairy and different colors are in it, like yellow, and sometimes there's a little hint of white because of that wherever the sun is landing. So, but that's what I started off with first. I used the yellow orchard and I let it sit for a little bit, and then I went, so we did the petals, we did that, we did the background. Then I started working on my leaves, and for the leaves, I didn't want them to be exactly the same color. I mean, they are pretty close to the same color, but I wanted to be a little bit more, like it didn't overblend. So what I did first was I used a little bit of variant hue. That was the first time I'm hearing about this color. I've never really heard of it before. But I used variant hue, and it's mostly in this one. And I used that to just add different shades, and then I came in with a sap green. And for using the leaves, the brush I used just trying to, like a number 6 flat tip brush, just outlined it in, and then just blended the colors in. So I used a sap green, I used the Varian hue, and I also used, I think I used, I dropped on the floor. Sorry. I used a yellow medium. So when I was done with that, I went back in with my middle part of the flower, and then I went and I used a burnt ombre. So I used a burnt ombre, very little bit of water, you know, because I wasn't trying to blend it with the yellow. I wanted to have some texture. And I just let that sit. And then I started to remember that hibiscus flowers have like these little freckles, it almost looks like, on the inner part of the flower. So I added some white paint with a number 6 round tip brush, but the brush was like, the bristles were very rough, and you want it to be that way so you can get this spaced out feeling in the flower. So I just dabbed it in different places, and then I also used the burnt ombre in different places, and then there was a little bit of that yellow medium that came in, but that's okay, that was fine. And I just let that be. And then after that, I started working on my baby's breath. And my baby's breath, just white paint, no water. And I used a number 6 flat tip brush just to do that. And that's basically it. You can use really any brush, if whatever you feel comfortable with your brushes, but the paints, those were the colors I used, and if you want to make your colors slightly different, that's okay. It's okay to make it slightly different. I'd actually encourage you to make it slightly different. So I did this outside, so if you can, try to do it outside to, you know, enjoy yourself and the weather. If it's raining, you know, just, I guess, imagine that you're outside with me painting. And also don't get too hard on yourself if it's not quite looking the way you want it to. Just, we're doing this for fun. It's experimenting with watercolors. And if you like this video and you want more like this one, just please hit like, comment, and subscribe to the channel so that I know you're interested and I can make more like this. Probably gonna go ahead and do it anyways because I just like experimenting and learning how to blend things better. And I usually do acrylics all the time, so I'm switching it up a little bit, doing watercolors for a little bit, and I'm gonna probably move on to oil painting. And also, I want to apologize, I didn't film this while I was sketching it out. So you might have to take a moment just to pause it and sketch it out, or you could just follow on the paint along with me on this painting. So in the future, I will make sure that I sketch it out so that you can follow along. Because it's much easier to paint when you sketch it out. I noticed you focus on those areas where you don't want to get your paint blended in. It also is very helpful when you're doing watercolors. I did notice that, because if this starts dripping into that, it's a huge mess, you know, and you gotta find a way to blend that in a way, you know. So I am super excited, and I hope that you have everything you need. And if you need help, or I missed something, please just hit a comment down below so that I can answer it to you and help you. So like, again, if you like this one and you want more like this, please hit like, comment, subscribe. Let's get started.